I lost my mom. He lost his wife. But somehow, he smiled at her funeral. I still remember the way the doctor looked at us. That awful mix of pity and finality in his eyes. I was holding my mom's hand, watching her chest rise and fall like it was struggling to remember how to breathe. Then, it didn't. She passed on a Tuesday. Peacefully, they said. But nothing about it felt peaceful to me. Her hand went cold. The machine stopped beeping. The nurse whispered something about time of death. I just stared at her face, waiting for her to open her eyes. Waiting for her to change her mind. She didn't. I broke down in that hospital room. I couldn't stand. My knees gave out. I was sobbing so hard I thought I'd throw up. But my dad? He just stood there. Took a deep breath. And closed her eyes gently. I remember being confused. Angry, even. How was he calm? How was he not screaming, shaking, demanding her back? We left the hospital in silence. On the ride home, he asked if I wanted anything to eat. I looked at him like he was insane. 3 days later was the funeral. I sat with tissues stuffed in my sleeve, my hands trembling as the casket was lowered. My face was soaked. I couldn't stop crying. My heart felt like it was splitting open. But when I looked at him he was smiling. Not grinning like a psycho, but just this soft, faint smile. Almost peaceful. He even greeted people, cracking a joke or two like it was Sunday lunch. And that was when I felt something snap inside me. I started keeping a list in my head. He didn't cry. He ate a full meal that night. He watched TV. He went back to work in 5 days. He laughed at something on Facebook. Meanwhile, I was still sleeping in her sweater. Still smelling her shampoo on her pillow. Still whispering goodnight to a ghost. I thought grief was supposed to break you. But he seemed fine. Too fine. I started hating him for it. Every time he smiled, it felt like a slap. Every time he moved on with life, I felt abandoned all over again. I began to think maybe he didn't love her the way I thought he did. Maybe their love was just routine. Maybe she meant more to me than she ever did to him. I cried myself to sleep most nights. And he? He just went to sleep. Like nothing had changed. Like she didn't matter. He didn't just bury my mom. He erased her. The first time I really lost it was when I walked into their bedroom and saw the closet half empty. Her shoes were gone. Her dresses? Folded neatly into boxes. Her nightgowns? Donated. It hadn't even been 3 weeks. I stood there, frozen, staring at the space where her Sunday were used to hang like royalty. The scent of lavender still lingered faintly in the air. And there he was, my dad, sorting scarves into a bag. He looked up and smiled. Hey, Dot, I'm just clearing up some space. Some space. Space where my mother's life used to live. I exploded. Are you serious right now? You're packing her things like she just went on a trip. He paused. Genuinely surprised. I just thought. It might help. For both of us. I didn't believe him. I didn't want to. Because how do you explain putting away memories like they're trash? How do you fold someone's existence and toss it in a donation box? I left the room, slamming the door hard enough for the whole house to feel it. Then came the movies. I would walk into the living room and see him laughing. Watching reruns of Mr. Bean, for God's sake. Sometimes he'd eat popcorn. Sometimes he'd fall asleep on the couch like it was just another Tuesday night. No candles. No crying. No whispering to her photo like I did. And every time I heard him laugh, I died a little more inside. I didn't want him to be in pain. I just didn't understand how he could not be. When relatives came to visit, I vented to one of my mom's sisters. I told her everything. The clothes. The movies. The silence. She just sighed. He's grieving in his own way, sweetheart. He's trying to be strong. For you. Strong? He didn't look strong. He looked done. Finished grieving. Finished caring. So I started writing. I bought a little black notebook and began unloading everything I couldn't say out loud. Every sentence ended with I hate him for this. I hate him for smiling. I hate him for not crying. I hate him for moving on like she didn't mean everything. It became my only outlet, my secret war journal. The place where I could be angry, without guilt. Because every time I tried to talk to him, he just looked confused. Or worse, calm. And nothing enraged me more than his calm. One night I wrote. If I died tomorrow, would he start packing up my things before they even turned off the machines? It was a cruel thought. But in that moment, it felt true. I thought he moved on. But he was barely holding on. It started with something stupid. The remote wasn't working, and I needed batteries. I knew we had a stash somewhere in Dad's room, maybe in that old desk drawer he always kept locked. But lately, everything had been left carelessly open. Like he didn't care anymore. So I looked. There were no batteries. But there was a journal. Leather-bound. Heavy. Tucked under a stack of papers like it didn't want to be found. It wasn't labeled. No name on it. Just plain and quiet like my dad. I should have closed the drawer. I should have respected his privacy. But my hands moved before my brain caught up. And I told myself it was okay, I needed answers. I wanted proof that he felt something. Anything. The first page stopped me cold. It's been 6 hours since she died. I can't breathe. I keep waiting for her to come around the corner, smiling, asking where her tea is. I keep forgetting she's not coming back. I smiled at the kids today. I had to. If they see me fall apart, who will be left standing? I sat down. Hard. The entries were short, dated, and brutal. No fluff. No flowery words. Just pain. Contained. Pressed down. Neatly folded like the shirts he'd packed into donation boxes. Another page. I threw away her toothbrush today. I cried like a child after. I kept looking at it in the bin like I could pull her back through it. Another. I slept on her side of the bed last night. I thought it would help. It didn't. It smelled like her. I ended up sobbing into her pillow until the sun came up. Every entry read like a scream whispered through clenched teeth. I felt sick. I had spent weeks, months hating him. Hating the quiet. The strength. The so-called moving on. But this wasn't strength. This was survival. I cooked dinner tonight. I kept expecting her to walk in and tell me I added too much salt. I almost said her name out loud. Just to pretend for a second she was still in the room. They say time heals. But I just feel like I'm learning how to limp without her. I flipped faster now, heart pounding. One entry, dated just 2 days after the funeral. I laughed today. Not because I was happy. But because I didn't know what else to do. My daughter looked at me like I had betrayed her. I think she hates me now. I stopped reading. I couldn't breathe. Because the person he described was me. And the monster I had painted him as was a man crushed by grief, trying to wear a mask so I wouldn't break further. He wasn't emotionless. He was suffocating. He didn't move on. He was just trying to move forward because someone had to. I closed the journal with trembling hands. I felt like the villain of my own story. The ungrateful child who mistook silence for indifference. And strength for betrayal. That night, I cried harder than I had since the funeral. But not for my mom. For my dad. I thought I was the only one crying. I never knew how much he was hiding. I couldn't sleep. I tried to shut the journal and leave it alone, but it felt like trying to turn off a fire. So I opened it again. Carefully. Almost reverently. And I kept reading. I stayed up all night again. I cried in the bathroom this time. I didn't want her to hear me. I don't think she understands what this silence is doing to me. I'm not strong. I'm just too scared to fall apart in front of her. That was written 4 days after the funeral. 4 days. While I was slamming doors, accusing him of forgetting her. He was sitting alone in the dark, muffling sobs behind a locked bathroom door. Another entry, later that same week. I gave away her clothes today. I thought it would make me feel better. It didn't. I folded each one like it still had her inside it. That line broke something in me. I had accused him of moving on too fast, of packing her up like she was replaceable. But here he was. Folding her clothes like sacred fabric. Like maybe if he held them gently enough, she'd come back. I wiped my face. I hadn't even noticed I was crying. Not soft, silent tears, but the kind that shake your chest and blur your eyes. I had spent so long convinced I was grieving alone. I was wrong. Page after page revealed a man who had collapsed, just not where I could see it. I can't eat her favorite foods. I keep setting 2 plates. Then I remember. She would have told me not to cry in front of the kids. But some nights I can't help it. I just hope the pillow absorbs the sound. Sometimes I whisper to her photo. I say good morning. I say good night. I tell her how badly I'm failing without her. I began to see it now. Every laugh, every quiet moment, every breath he took wasn't peace. It was performance. A daily show he put on to keep me from seeing how much he was falling apart. And then I reached the last page. A single entry. A few lines. I hope one day they understand. I'm not okay. I'm just pretending to be what they need. I pressed the journal to my chest. Like it could hug me back. Like maybe I could absorb his pain through the pages and carry it with him. Because he had been carrying mine all along. He hadn't erased her memory. He had been keeping it alive inside himself, silently, faithfully, while I mistook his strength for betrayal. He didn't stop loving her. He loved her so deeply. It was destroying him. And he didn't want me to see it. I thought he forgot her. But he was carrying her memory like a burning torch. I just never saw the flames. The next morning felt heavier than any I'd ever lived through. I didn't sleep. Not really. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word in that journal like they were tattooed on the inside of my skull. The hallway felt longer than usual. Quieter. Like even the walls knew something in me had shifted. He was in the kitchen. Making tea. His usual way, too much milk, no sugar. His back was turned, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. He always stood like that. Straight but tired. I sat at the table and waited. He placed the cup in front of me, then sat opposite me without saying a word. We sat there for a long time. Two people surrounded by silence, grief, and now understanding. I opened my mouth. But the words were stuck in my throat, behind the lump I'd carried for months. So instead, I whispered broken, quiet. I read it. I know everything now. He didn't flinch. Didn't yell. Didn't even look surprised. He just nodded. Slowly. Like he'd been waiting for this moment all along. My lips trembled. My hands shook. I'm sorry, Dad. I thought you didn't care. I thought you forgot her. Tears blurred my vision. But you were just protecting me. And I hated you for it. He reached across the table and placed his hand over mine. Warm. Steady. You didn't know, he said softly. I didn't want you to. I cried. Harder than I had in a long time. Not because I was grieving my mom again. But because I had missed grieving with the one person who was always grieving alongside me. He got up and walked around the table. He didn't say anything else. Just pulled me into his chest and held me. And in that hug years of love, silence, sorrow, and forgiveness passed between us without a single word. He didn't forget her. He never moved on. He had been carrying her memory like a burning torch, shielding me from the heat, letting it scorch him instead. And I, blind, angry, lost, had never seen the flames. Until now.